welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Hops Geek News, a podcast that talks about comic books, movies, TV shows, and we typically feature a beer of the week. If this is your first time with us, thanks for hanging out. Today's episode is about Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, one of my all-time favorite stories, movies, you name it. This is something very near and dear, and we have a friend that's going to join us. That comes in the second half, the main topic. As always, we start off with what we've been drinking, what we've messed up on recently or looked into, some news, and what we've been reading or watching. And I am Matt. With me is Lauren. Go ahead, Hops Geek News. Any podcasting platform, any social media platform, find us there. You can find us next week at Megacon. And it's looking like we are
So close.
possibly pretty much going to be hosting a panel right from the get-go. Our friends Jackson, Lanzing, and Collin Kelly have a panel at 7 p.m. day one of MegaCon, February 1st. I will be stepping off the plane at 3 o'clock, and it's looking like we're going to be hosting their panel from the get-go. You don't want to miss that, I promise you. You don't want to miss out on MegaCon. We're going to be doing all sorts of things. We will be at Mosh Isley. We will be at MegaCon. We will be wherever you'll find us in Orlando, right? Breweries, you name it, we're there. However, my beer, though, speaking of breweries, we're going to get a little exciting. If you might have listened to our previous creator interview episode with Frank, the writer, Frank Martin, I'm drinking a Temptation to Reinvent the Supernatural Double IPA from one of my more preferable breweries out of the East Coast, Burial Brewing. It's out of Asheville, North Carolina. They also have a brewery in Raleigh. So anytime I go down to Raleigh, I pick up at least a 4-pack. I try to get Lauren some too. It's 8%. It's delicious. If you're on YouTube for any reason, you can kind of see like their can art is always cool. It's kind of like some Edgar Allan Poe style beer names and whatnot. It's interesting. So that's what I'm
Definitely.
drinking. You can check out in the glass, nice and hazy, delicious, full of flavor, full of juice, got all those citrusy flavors. And Lauren, I believe you're drinking a Burial too. So why don't you actually give me a second, folks? The can. They always have something to say. This is where we evade the infestation of infectious concepts. For you shall notice not what plows its way through, and embrace only the rhythm of the soul's beautiful intransigence. Oh man. A sermon from the walls of the heavy resin, mashed with barley and oats, whirlpooled with mosaic, incognito, and cryo, double dry hopped with strata, mosaic, eldorado, and cascade before a blend of cryo to finish. This beer is like a mutant, absolute mutant, and it's delicious. And I will have another beer on the second half of the episode for Scott Pilgrim. So, anyways, Lauren, as you were saying, what is your burial beer today?
So my burial beer is one you sent me, but we've actually drank it on here before, so this is a double. It is just enough to keep from the coffin.
Yeah.
Double India Pale Ale, and yeah, it's a heart with like bushes growing out of it, and it's pretty cool. And it definitely, I could see, yeah, Edgar Allan Poe. I mean, the heart's under some bushes rather than a floorboard. But
True.
it's 8.2%. I do have it because we're recording two tonight. So we're also going to be recording, if you cut our recent episode with Frank Martin, he's talking about his new Kickstarter comic, which is resembling Where the Wild Things Are. And my glass from Calusa, this little guy, he's
Oh
like
yeah.
made out of a fooder. He kind of looks like Where the Wild Things Are.
I
So
can see it for
yeah, a
sure.
little
Yeah.
mashup tonight.
Go ahead and go check out that episode because Frank is a longtime friend of the show. Check his Kickstarter out. Trust me, this in my, spoiler free, you'll hear it on the episode, but it's probably one of my more favorite comics that Frank has actually written. It was really cool. It's a horror comic. Like I said, go check out that. It just dropped last Friday. Anyways, on to what we have messed up on or looked into. Lauren, I believe this is you.
Oh, that's good because I
I
don't even
should
have my
start playing
doc
some
pulled
like
up.
funeral music, when this comes in.
Womp womp womp. Oh, we should have like a sound effect like that, like womp womp womp.
Mwah.
I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm disheveled today. So one of the things was last week we were talking about how the Netflix shows are now canon to the MCU timeline, and we were talking about how I kept saying Cobra is the same guy that they cast for Blade. His name is not Cobra; it's Cottonmouth. I got my
Yeah.
snakes mixed up.
Snakes.
I
I don't
knew
know no snakes.
I knew Cobra was wrong. It felt wrong every time I said it, but I couldn't think of what it was, so I just kept saying it. So if any of you were yelling at your car radio or whatever you listen to our podcast on, like it was Cottonmouth, you uncultured swine, I'm really sorry.
Gosh, stupid idiot.
So the other piece of information that I learned, the last 2 weeks we did episode, or the last week we did 2 episodes on Echo. We did our recap episode, and then we also did a comic origin. And I learned since then, because here's your supernatural, 4 degrees of supernatural. Have you met Eileen yet, Matt?
Come on, Eileen. No, I don't think I
She's
have.
in the
I don't know.
Banshee episode. It starts off with the baby, and there's blood coming out of her ears.
Listen. This is my first time
You're
through
probably
Supernatural. You got to understand that, like, I might have. I'm on like season 9, episode 16.
Have you
If that
met the
helps.
deaf girl?
No, actually, I haven't.
Okay. So when you get there, this is who that is. So
Oh,
her name is Shoshana, and she's in Supernatural, and she's deaf in real life. And she worked on Echo behind the scenes to basically, help with all the sign language and make it, I guess, more accurate. I don't know. But I thought that was really cool. I guess she's been on many different things and worked behind the scenes on things as well. So that was really cool. I love her character in Supernatural. It is so crazy that you are now on like almost 10 and you still haven't. Have you met Rowena?
no, that's Rowena. I was told that's my boy Crowley's mom, right?
Spoilers.
I know that. See that? I know. I know it's his mom, but I haven't met her yet. No. I'm on currently Crowley is an addict for human blood.
I love Ad. I love you. You don't know what it's like to be human. All right, so we need to catch up on those episodes of recording. But in real life, actually, congratulations to Rowena and God or Chuck because they just had a baby in real life. So
Oh,
Supernatural out here making a bunch of kids.
congrats. Best cup of coffee.
So Crowley's
Anyways,
a big brother,
that's awesome. And
even though
we will
he's
be
Mark
seeing
Shepard's older than
Felicia
Ruthie
Day.
O'Connell.
Felicia Day is going to be. I feel like honestly, now that I'm watching Supernatural, I think we kind of might have to get a picture with Felicia. I think I've been thinking about it. I think we should.
We'll see what
So
the prices are when we get there. Like Mark
yeah, oh
Shepard's
God,
only $40
40
two
bucks for
years
I
ago
would
at
do that. Yeah.
Megacon. Yeah, it was $20 for Tabby and I. Like that was worth it. But man, over $100 for these, I'm
I
out
got
with
to
all
pay
this
like
stuff.
$110 for a selfie. Forget about it.
Even if we do like
Forget
the
about it.
supernatural one ever, like I'm not paying
I can't
to take a
justify like
picture with Jensen. I'm
$500
not
to get a
doing it.
picture. Like,
And honestly,
yeah.
that's not even the picture I want. The picture I want is with him holding beers at his brewery or at a brewery. Like
I
I
would
don't want
like,
to. I'm not
yeah.
even a hugger.
I'll be like, dude, look, if I get a chance to talk to him, I'd legit just be like, dude, I love you. However, my ideal setting is we are having beers somewhere and chatting. And maybe the beer conversation might open something up there. Be like, hey, dude, I just want to chat beers with you. Like, I like Supernatural, but I'm not here to fawn over you in Supernatural. I'm here to like, let's talk brewskis, my dude. Uh, that's
Yeah,
just an ideal world, right? We'll get there
it's in our imaginary
in our
heads.
imaginations. Speaking of Comic
Imagination.
Cons, real quick, not only will we be at MegaCon, but I want to promote 2 other ones. GalaxyCon Richmond, which is the weekend of March 15th through 17th. Press passes for that. Probably gonna have a Batman panel for that. And then AwesomeCon is the weekend before that one, and that's in Washington D.C. Again, press passes, and we might have a Marvel panel at that one. So if you're in Virginia, you got 2 other chances to catch us. Do
Not
that.
me.
Yeah, well,
Both
maybe
of those
maybe
weekends I
good for
have
you.
stuff going on. It's
No, you
really
don't.
sad.
Your anniversary means nothing.
Mm.
Anyways, what we have been reading or watching. So if you follow along, we have been doing some epic comic book reviews. I did some for DC this week, Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, issue number 4. And I'm really enjoying this comic book because I mean, how often, you know me, I love Godzilla. I love the Justice Leagues. And how often do you get to like see those things mash up together? Brian Buccellato is doing a really great job writing it. He really understands the characters like Godzilla and just being able to go back and forth between them all. The villains are bickering at one point. It's really, really cool. So I've done that. And then another one that I've been reading is Kill Your Darlings. Number 5 is out from Ethan S. Parker, Griffin Sheridan, Robert Quinn, and John J. Hill. Now, I can't stop raving about that particular comic enough because, dude, it is my favorite comic from Image Comics right now. Absolutely phenomenal. This issue was very heavy, very grief centric, and the artwork is just absolutely insane. I need you guys to pick up this comic book. I need you to read Kill Your Darlings because it's just absolutely nuts. And then, of course, I haven't done too much else besides watch Supernatural and watch football. The Green Bay Packers are still in it, of course. Probably not going to be in it much longer because they can never beat San Francisco. So I'm probably
Well,
going
I
to be
heard the
sad
Dolphins
next
just
week.
froze to death on the field.
Dolphins dead, dead. Dolphins are dead. But I
Did I tell you
am.
about that TikTok I saw with the Dolphins fan? He looked like there he was literally wearing like a sleeping bag.
Oh my
And he
God.
had a Dolphins jersey on, and he's like, I can't be here anymore. They flew from Miami, and his
That's
friend's like,
crazy.
aren't you gonna finish his beer? And his beer was completely
I see. Yeah,
frozen
the beers are
solid.
frozen. It was negative 25 with the wind chill,
And he looked like in Cool Runnings, like he must have just worn every single thing that he brought at once.
I definitely
I can't
lied
even
though.
fathom that.
I did
Why
watch
would you
one
have an
other thing.
outdoor stadium if it gets that cold?
Football's supposed to be played in the elements, man. Come
I
on.
understand that, but then have like a retractable roof or something.
Nope.
That's just like, I don't
Nope.
know, that's
Football's
insane.
supposed to be
Cancel the
played in the
damn
elements.
game.
Nope. Nope. Just
This is
like
why the Dolphins
Miami.
always do good
No,
in
because
preseason.
Miami's really good because they have teams that travel to their stadium in the summer and like the fall where it's still 100 degrees. And guess what they
Right.
do? They have the shade on their half of the bench, and on the other team, they're sitting in the sun. So I don't feel bad for them
And I always
because
have
they
friends that
cook the
complain
away
if they're
team.
sitting on the visitor side because I
Yeah,
have a lot of friends who are season ticket holders, and obviously
yeah.
it's
I
cheaper
don't
to
feel
get them
bad
on
for
the
them.
visitor side.
Yeah,
But they always, not always, but the Dolphins are usually really good during preseason because they're used to practicing in the heat, and then they just get
exactly,
worse throughout the year.
exactly. But I did watch one other thing. Speaking of the Dolphins, I
Did you
watched
watch
Ace
Ace Ventura?
Ventura: Pet Detective.
No
I
shit.
did. I did. Uh,
Place is out,
I did. I
Dan.
totally forgot that it's definitely not kid friendly, but
But we watched it on repeat as kids.
oh, dude, that entire my personality was talking with my butt cheeks. Like, come
Oh
on,
my
who
God. Can
wasn't?
I ask you some
I'd go
questions?
up and be talking to my parents, and they'd be like rolling their. But come on, who
And
didn't
my
do
brother
this?
would do that all the time too.
Anyways, what have you been getting into?
So Josh has decided he's going to rewatch The Walking Dead. So of course I come in and I get sucked into that. He's on season 2. We just saw Sophia come out of the barn. Because he asked the other day, because he likes to have like a go-to show. He's like, I don't want to. He's like, I want to do what you do. I don't want to like spend 20 minutes looking for a movie to fall asleep to every
Yeah,
night. And he
that's
just
fair.
finished all of Game of Thrones. And he's like, where did I leave off on Walking Dead? I'm like, I don't know. What's the last thing you remember? And he's like, I don't know. And I'm
There were
like, well, I can't
zombies.
ask you
Great.
because then I will spoil it for you if I say, oh, did you see so and so die? So he wants to he's like, well, how did it end? I really liked the ending. So he's rewatching all that. And then maybe when he's done with that, him and I will watch some of the new stuff and test that out. So we shall see. So I'm watching a little bit of that. Other than Supernatural, I did start Spaceballs last night. I tried to
Okay.
introduce Brielle to that, and she
Was
was
it
not
so
laughing
hot?
as hard as I was. And then she fell asleep. So I stopped it.
That's fair. Gosh, parents just don't understand, man.
That movie's so funny. She's like, it's not that funny. I'm like, it's really funny. I don't know, whatever. And then they say shit so much. They curse so much. And I looked it up and I'm like, this movie is PG.
Look, the times were different back then.
It was
Okay, the times were
1987.
different.
So as far as reading the comics I reviewed this week were Black Hammer: The End, which is from Dark Horse Comics. That one is a spinoff of Black Hammer that's from Jeff Lemire. That one's very interesting. It's like a multiversal kind of world ending story, but that's not my favorite part of said comic. My favorite part is like this mother who's like struggling with, because she's the Black Hammer and she's struggling with that whole, do I lie to my kids to keep them safe and try to quit being, it's almost like you can't quit the mob, you can't quit being a superhero,
True.
but as long as you're in it, your family is in danger, but without you the whole multiverse could be in danger. So it's a lot of
Yeah.
like conflict with that. And then the other comic I read was Guardians of the Galaxy issue 10. I got to actually review that one this week. So it was funny because obviously I got it digitally the night before it came out. And then the next day I stopped at my comic book shop and there it was. But I have to have the whole set. So
Of
that's by
course.
Jackson Lanzing and Collin Kelly. I've been reading that since we had them on the show. I'm really liking that. Although my only complaint is at the end of this one, they're like, it will conclude in the next issue. And I was like, what? But I do also know that this was a kind of connected from a past story. So I'm going to then find that one. And I wouldn't be surprised if they keep going with this. I really like this run of the Guardians. If you're looking for something that reminds you of the movie characters, but is completely different from the movie characters, this is very interesting. It seemed very tragic at the beginning. And then they all kind of had like self discovery Zen moments. But now it's like all out war and Star Lord is not fucking around anymore. So I'm really enjoying that. It's really funny. Like I was reading it and Brielle, I was in the car waiting to pick up Logan because I had to pick up Brielle early because she didn't feel good. So then we're sitting in the car waiting for Logan. And I keep giggling and she's like, what? What? I'm like, do you want me to read this aloud? It's funny. So it's funny. It's good. It's got a lot of action. And I did read the second issue of Thunderbolts.
Oh yeah.
And it's connected to the Captain America Cold War run that they did. So
Yes.
I did not realize that at first. And then I was like, wait a minute, this sounds familiar.
Yeah, and it's
So
it's pretty solid too. I enjoy what they're doing. They're doing Lots of really good things that you can hear them talk about in person if you go to MegaCon. Just throwing that out there,
Yes.
folks.
And I did just read all the Cold War ones, but I only read them. So it was from
Nice.
different
Right.
issues, which
Well,
was interesting. That's what I've been reading and
why don't we roll
watching.
into some news? Give us your news.
I got a lot of MegaCon news, some updates. Back to the Future cast will be there Thursday and Friday.
I'm
You're gonna have Doc,
surprised.
Marty, Biff, and Lorraine.
How was Doc's? When I saw Doc at MegaCon in 2016, that guy could not remember where he was. I'm a little
Mm,
worried.
hmm. I was talking about that with some friends. Like, who knows how much longer they'll be able to do
Yeah.
cons, all of them. And like at the age we are now, a lot of the people we grew up with are getting up there.
Yep.
So the Entourage cast is coming as well to celebrate their 20th anniversary, which is so crazy to me that they're even going to be there, let alone that that show is 20 years old. Sadly, Eddie from Stranger Things has canceled, but they did get Chrissy. So be prepared to have Chrissy wake up stuck in your head at times if
Oh,
you're going.
brother.
Marissa Tomei
Oh
is
yeah,
going
I'm
to be
excited.
there.
Aunt Bay. What's up,
That
bro?
is crazy. I mean, I fell in love with her and my cousin Vinny.
Yeah, she's been around a hot minute, and I
She's so
emphasize
good in that
hot.
movie. So then Rainn Wilson from The Office, that's amazing. Shamik Moore from Across the Spider Verse, Daniel Logan making it so that we have three Boba Fett's, which is really cool. Sean Gunn, Robbie Amell, and we got Short Round,
Yes,
Ki Q Kwan, and there's a bunch more coming. That's pretty impressive. Wish the movie will be on Disney Plus on February 23rd. And if you have listened to me talk at all about The Alternates, the comic book, or Minor Threats, the comic book, which is actually by Patton Oswalt and Jordan Bloom, if you have been reading that, then you're going to want to go ahead and pre order volume 2 of Minor Threats as they are
I would
making
catch
that,
up
and it
on
will
that
be
comic
releasing in a
book
few
because
months.
they may or may not be paying a visit to
I
a
haven't heard back
show
yet.
soon. So now's your chance.
Now's your
It's
chance.
exciting.
Why don't you do your news and I'll do my one
Yeah.
beer news?
So Foggy and Karen are allegedly rumored to be coming back in Daredevil Born Again. Apparently, they've decided with making the Netflix shows canon, they are just going ahead. There's no real. They decided at this point to like, hey, we're redoing the show. We're gonna go ahead and bring them back potentially. Is what Vincent D'Onofrio said. There's no word if it's still 18 episodes, so we're not entirely sure what's going on that front. However, justice for Karen and Foggy. I'm stoked if it is true that they are coming back. Top Gun 3 is in the works. Of course, I'm going to be there day one. Netflix is getting Masters of the Universe Revolution from Kevin Smith out on January 25th. So this week, you will have the next installment of Masters of the Universe. R.L. Stine has another Fear Street movie coming to Netflix called The Prom Queen. This basically goes you're at a prom and there's five prom queens candidates and somebody is murdering them all. So they have to figure out what's going
What?
on there. Gasp, a tale's old has to
Hate when
tell.
that happens.
I know. Disney Plus is currently in talks about a Star Wars version of What If. I've been clamoring for this for years, and we're finally potentially going to get it. Troy Baker will be
You messed up
voicing.
Baker?
Yeah, I misspelled it on my thing. So Troy Baker,
Hmm.
you know him as Joel in The Last of Us video game, will be a main character in Indiana Jones in the Great Circle video game set between Raiders and the Last Crusade. However, it is only going to be on PC and Xbox. Xbox is for poor people. God, I
What?
hate this
I have an
news.
Xbox.
I hate this
Not
news. I'm
really.
sad
We
because
have a Wii
I'm a PlayStation person.
and an
So like
Atari.
I'm not gonna get to play this video game. That sucks. And last but not least, a sequel to the Polar Express is in the works. So
Wait, what?
yay. I don't know. I'm not a Polar Express fan.
Sequel to Polar Express? I wish they would just redo it and not have it be the creepy CGI. I loved the
I
book growing up.
know. I don't know. I don't
We used
even
to
like
listen
the
to the
movie,
cassette
so I
tape.
can't I have no stake in this
I don't
game.
think anybody liked the movie.
There's a contingent out there that like the movie, but it's not me. I'm not
Oh
aboard the
no.
Polar Express. Missed
All
that
aboard.
train.
Every time somebody like the first gift that gets passed out of Christmas, I'm always like, the first gift of Christmas. So Carlsberg Brewery will be acquiring 20% of Mickler Brewing. Mickle, the guy who started it, will remain the CEO and majority shareholder. A lot of people believe that this is partially the result of their sales going down and them having to close tap rooms because they did not appropriately respond
Oof.
to a lot of claims that people, specifically women, were not being treated fairly. Well, they fucked around and found out. But
Did he be
now
like that?
they probably just, made some money selling 20% of the brewery to
Probably, yeah.
Carlsberg. They
Whatever.
are a Dane. I mean, the guy's from Denmark, so they were originally a nomadic brewery, which I thought was like, whoa, that's genius. You just get to travel around and brew beer at
Yeah,
different
right.
breweries. That's really cool. But then they started opening up places and then they started
Not
closing them. And I
so
always loved their beer.
fast.
Yeah. And they do have a tap room in Denmark with Three Floyds, which is so good.
Hmm. Well,
Yep, there you go.
we, folks, will be right back in just a second, where we will be joined by DT from the Space Castle Pod to talk about Scott Pilgrim versus the World. We are Sex Bomb. 1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome back, everybody, to our main topic. Like I said, Scott Pilgrim time. And I rave about it all the time. I love this movie. I love everything about Scott Pilgrim and the lore. However, it is such a good series that we had to bring one of our dear friends, because he has been somebody that we've really gotten to know lately. And we it's been long overdue. We've been talking about getting him on. And so DT from Space Castle is here, man. How are you doing, first of all?
I'm good, man. I am super excited to be here. Probably not nearly as excited as our friend Zach Deuce is going to be when he finds out we're doing this.
Yes.
He's been trying to get us to do this for like 2 years
He
now, but
he has.
yeah, huge fan of the show. You guys also are sweethearts. I've been getting to know you guys pretty well over the last couple of years, and you're awesome. Been dying to find time to do the show. We finally did it. I'm just amped to be here.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's now I can already tell it's gonna be one of those reoccurring things where we all just, because if it's sometimes you get people that come on to shows, and this isn't pointing out to anybody in particular, but it's just like, oh, okay, this is, they're on, it's an interview ball. But the fact that we all just like hang out together,
Hmm.
you rigged your fantasy football league to where I didn't win, it's okay. And
Yeah,
then
that was the whole point. I just wanted to
Well, you sound
defeat you
like
and
a
crush
sore
your
loser,
spirit.
Matt.
I told him straight up, I was like, dude, I deleted the app after I lost, I'm out of here.
Well, you got fourth place though. I mean, that's
I
that's
know, it's still good.
that's good. Yeah, out of
It's
I
10.
mean,
ESPN's fault.
you were the third loser.
It was. Well, see,
Right.
like I was talking so much because I thought I won, and it turned out I didn't. And it was just, you know what? I rage quit like I'm 11 and I'm on the Xbox playing Halo again. And but no, like DT has been somebody that's like hang on our Discord, and we always just chop it up every day. He's really become a friend, and that's what this part of the episode is, guys. It's we're just friends. We got a third co-host for the day. And so before I let him go on any further, let's talk about our beers, because we have special beers for this part. Like I said, we're talking Scott Pilgrim. And so I chose a local beer from Vazen Brewing Company out of Richmond, Virginia. This is one it's literally, if you go to the Vale, which is probably the most popular Richmond brewery you can find, if you take like not even, it's maybe zero point 0.1 miles up the road from the Vale in Scott's Edition, you're going to find Vazen. And honestly, this is an unsung hero of Richmond, Virginia. This one is called Tropic Crush Pale Ale. It's a West Coast, coming at 6.2%. And it's brewed with Amarillo, Centennial, Chinook, and HBC 586. Dude, it's wicked good. Like I said, if you're on YouTube, I had to show the can artwork. But the reason why I chose it was Tropic Crush, man. Ramona. She changes her
Mm,
hair. You changed her hair. Every 5 seconds, she got a new hair color. Very tropical. She goes from the pink to the green to the blue.
that's a lot of
Um,
work.
it
Yeah.
is.
Her hair is probably so dry.
That's always the thing that I've thought about. She dyes her hair so often. It's like, girl, your hair is brittle.
Just stripping it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why I chose this one, and it's wicked good. Like I said, if you're in Richmond, it's a delicious brewery. So, Lauren, why don't we dive into real quick what you are drinking?
So obviously I always try to theme my beers really well, and I was having a little bit of a hard time theming it. So I went with a Dragon's milk bourbon barrel aged stout from New Holland. And the reason
Nice.
I did that is one, because my mom left it in my fridge, and two, this was actually the beer that Megacon had the last 2 years, and we're all up on that Megacon hype train right now. They doesn't look like they're going to have this one this year. It looks like Wicked Weed is a sponsor. However, I will say last year they had three beers from New Holland. All three were 10 or 11%. This one's 11%. And I did see quite a few drunk people. I don't think a lot of people realized how high of ABV those beers probably were, because I think the average person is used to drinking 5 to 6% ABV beers. So that was pretty entertaining, but all three beers were phenomenal. I mean, they were great.
Listen,
Uh,
first and
so I'm guessing
foremost,
we'll probably get like pernicious or something.
all I'm hearing is if we're drinking some Wicked Wheat, yeah, that's probably what it is. That's their most popular one.
I mean, I like Wicked Weed, but because they're in Bev, it makes me a little less happy.
Yeah. I'm right
But I
there with
will
you.
say,
Damn it.
3 years ago, Megacon didn't have beer. So
Megacon is beer. So if you catch us at our panel and we're a little bit loose, because that's just how it goes, just know we might have dove into a couple of those beers. But
I got a Grogu glass because there's
Oh,
going to
nice.
be Mandalorian people there. You can't really see it with a stout, but Moff
anyways,
Gideon will be there.
that's right. There's a good amount. DT, my man. Let's dive into what you're drinking real quick before we get into some Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, totally. So I'm drinking the Joshua Tree India Pale Ale from New Terrain Brewing. I'm going local too. It's from Golden, Colorado, where I work, and it is a really cool wintry IPA because it is brewed with Mosaic, Centennial, Simcoe hops, and also spruce tips. So it's very
Love spruce
piney.
tips in my
It's
beer.
very resiny, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
It comes at 6.5%. It's very crisp, very tasty, and it's got a really interesting story because it's a seasonal beer. They brew it once a year, right around wintertime, obviously, because it's sprucey and, resiny and just a delicious
Christmassy.
wintertime beer. But they brew it once a year in memory of their friend Josh Pink, who passed away.
Oh man.
And because he was such a huge skier and snowboarder, the proceeds for the beer sales go to this program here in Colorado that helps like at-risk kids like kind of figure themselves out and get off the streets by learning board and snow sports. So it's
Oh,
super
that's
cool. It's a
awesome.
delicious beer. I go to the brewery all the time. They're such sweethearts. They have nothing but great stuff going on. So really want to support them. So
Dude, Colorado too. Like, look, first of all, I always love when a brewery kind of like gives back, right? It's always like a good, I don't want to say feel good because it's like tragic circumstances sometimes, but it is a feel good thing. Like they're giving back. And I love when a brewery is able to do that.
yeah, I
And
mean, turning something sad and terrible into something beneficial and helpful for other people is really the best thing you can do. So
Right. That's like
100%.
pure humanity. That's Mr. Rogers. Look for the helpers.
That's right,
yeah,
man.
exactly.
But you do, I mean, that's one thing I love is Colorado. I got to stop there and their beers are always great. Like a lot of people think of the snowboarding and the skiing, and
Well, I
to
want
a
to do that there
degree,
too. I've
I
never
feel
been
like, yeah, like Colorado's
other than changing planes.
gorgeous. I could have high-fived you when I went through, but unfortunately I didn't. But the breweries there, man, are so good. And you always talk about a lot of the good brews and you always drop them in the Discord and I'm
I
Oh
always
didn't
yeah.
know
jealous. And
Colorado had good beers.
yeah, Colorado low
That's a
key.
joke.
I caught on.
Okay, thank you.
I was in my crew, but let's get into some Scott Pilgrim. Anyways, let's get into some Scott Pilgrim, man. So did you read the books first or did you see the movie first? Like which came for you and when did you first get into the Scott Pilgrim world?
It was the books for me.
Ooh.
So I'm an OG Scott Pilgrim fan. Yeah. Scott Pilgrim's important for me because I must have been like 23, 24 when I first discovered the books. And I played bass guitar and I followed around local bands and I
I knew
tried
I
desperately to
fucking loved
start.
you because I'm a
Yeah,
bassist myself.
I know that about you. That's it's rad. That's
Yes.
great. But I would ran around and went to local shows and tried desperately to start bands of my own. And right around the time I really got into the comics, I was in a doomed relationship with a very sort of distant girl, sort of aloof girl. First time I ever really fell hard for somebody. So Brian Lee O'Malley was probably pretty much like writing my story. Like I grew up playing video games, listening to music, and hanging out with skateboarders and going to local shows and whatnot. So it was something that really resonated with me. And then while that relationship dissolved and it was the worst breakup of my life, the books were there to like kind of help me get through it. And then the movie too. So there was a ton for me to relate to there and sort of latch onto as I was going through one of the most like tumultuous and informative periods of my life. So it means a lot to me.
Yeah, it's funny you do mention that because for me it was the movie. Now this came out in 2010. I was actually going through again
I thought
women,
you were gonna
right?
say your age. We're like, okay, Matt, we get it. You're
No,
young.
no, I was going through I had broken up recently with a girl I went through high school with. Like we were together for years. One of those situations. And then I ended up going with my friends one night to see the movie, didn't know a thing about it, and then I was like, dang, it hit hard, just like you did with the books. It hit at the perfect time.
Yeah, it was just serendipitous, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah. And from there is that I didn't read the books for a while, but uh just like Scott with Ramona, she came at kind of the right time for him. Yeah, I know there's a lot of baggage with her, but after I kind of went through some things, and my wife and I, we kind of got together, and she was in a way, a lot less baggage. First and foremost, my wife, but she came at that right time, and then she started buying me the books because she knew how much I loved Scott Pilgrim. I just had never really read the books, and so it's weird to go from a breakup where you use it as a crutch almost to get through something. To For me now, it means my relationship and my wife. It's something we love so much. We watched the show, which we'll talk about, and with the books, it was just kind of one of those like bright spots. And now I haven't read all the books yet. I know we were talking about this before. So Lauren, going to you, when did you first get into the world of Scott Pilgrim?
Saturday around 2 o'clock.
I know. No,
What? No.
that's yeah.
So when Matt was praising this, and obviously it was getting praised in the Discord when the show came out, and it was actually, I think my suggestion was, hey, after Christmas is over, we should do a Scott Pilgrim episode. I need to rewatch the movie and then I'll watch the show. I put the movie on and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen this. I think I literally just remembered the trailer.
Hmm.
And obviously it has a stacked cast. It wasn't considered as stacked when it came out, I don't think. Like, I think this came out right before Chris Evans
This
was
is right
Captain
before
America.
everybody blew up, dude. It's Brandon
Yeah.
Routh, Superman, Chris Evans, Captain America, Aubrey Plaza.
It even has the original not the original Punisher, but the Punisher before John Bernthal.
Yeah, it's got
Yeah,
Tom
Thomas
Jane.
Jane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There you
they're
go.
vegans, man. The vegan police. And
Yeah.
Michael Cera, Mary
Kieran
Elizabeth
Culkin.
Winstead, Kieran Culkin, who the Succession. And
I mean, he was just known as Fuller to me at the time.
Yeah,
All right.
it's absolutely wild. Anna Kendrick, the actual love of my life.
Yeah.
And so
Brie Larson went on to be
Yeah, Brie
Captain
Larson,
Marvel
like-
See, I
and
knew
an
her
Oscar
from
winner.
United States of Terra at that time,
Yeah.
which she was fantastic in.
Yeah. That was the Toni Collette show, right? Yeah.
Yeah, with this,
She's
she was
amazing.
the daughter
Yeah.
of Toni Collette, who had split personalities. That whole show was great. I absolutely love that show. It's on Showtime. Only 3 seasons. I guess Toni Collette got pregnant and didn't want to continue the show. And they did end it nicely, but I would have loved more seasons of that show. It was phenomenal.
I
And
just
had the
can't
dude.
believe it took you until Saturday.
I know.
It's-
I can't either because I really
You
thought I
learn
had
something
seen
new
it.
every day. We've been at this for 4 years now, and you learn something new every day.
I mean,
This
at
is
that time
cool,
when I
though,
thought of
but-
Chris Evans, I thought of a banana sticking out of his ass.
Yeah. It was that Not Another Teen Movie, right?
Yes.
That was awesome. Or like he was the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four movies.
Yeah.
Yes,
But I mean, those weren't those,
They were not
those
good.
didn't move me like the other Marvel movies did. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, they were better than the other Fantastic Four movie.
so I'm interested to see, Lauren, what was, because you didn't really give much away. What were your initial thoughts in the movie then?
Oh, I really liked the movie. I thought the movie was a lot of fun. Again, like we said, great cast. Even if they weren't huge then, they were still all phenomenal actors. Scott Pilgrim's kind of a dick.
Oh,
He-
Scott's the bad guy.
Yeah, he always like kind of, in his character in his movies, Michael Cera always kind of plays this innocent like guy that gets pushed around. And I think he did get pushed around a little bit, but he also did his own pushing around. So it was like, you're a villain in somebody else's story too. You're not just a victim here. But it was really good. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the fighting. I enjoyed the comic book feel of it. And I thought it was great. I didn't well, I guess we'll get into the show in a minute, but I liked it.
It's for you, DT, did the movie live up, as because you are not like us, you actually read the books first. So what were your initial thoughts of the movie when you saw it?
I love the movie. I still adore it. I've got a few minor issues with it just because the comics were so near and dear to my heart. But what's weird is the movie came out before the books were finished. So I believe the movie came out between volumes 5 and 6 of the graphic novels. So Ryan Lee O'Malley was obviously very involved with the production of the movie. He worked very closely with Edgar Wright to plan out the plot and the screenplay and whatnot. Was on set because Edgar Wright loves the graphic novels so much that he really wanted to do right by them and make the most like faithful adaptation possible. But they didn't have an ending to it because Brian Lee O'Malley hadn't written the ending yet. So they kind of winged it. So the ending is kind of a little bit of a flop. I think the third act is really good, but the ending itself is kind of a flop. And it doesn't live up to the graphic novels because obviously Brian Lee O'Malley had way more time to like figure it out and plan it out and actually write it. But overall, I think the movie's great. I think it is a brilliant comic book to movie adaptation. I think the editing is phenomenal. The cinematography by Bill Pope, who also did The Matrix and a whole mess of other action movies, is just spot on. It is literally the graphic novels come to life. It's just staggering how accurate and lovingly they made this movie.
Honestly, for a 2000, like we say this 2010, it was like so long ago, right? To me, it was yesterday. But one of the standouts for me in this movie was how good the graphics were,
Yeah.
because this is they so seamlessly intertwine the comic book aspect and video game aspect, like the fights and all of that kind of stuff. So it was kind of dope, and it still holds up today as far as modern
Oh
graphics.
yeah.
If anything, I feel like their CGI and things like that are better than a lot of movies we get now.
Well, I
Yeah.
think because there were scenes that it was intentionally it was supposed to look fake. So
Yeah.
I don't want to say that they were cheating because that's what they were going for, but I do feel like if they were trying to make things look genuine or like they were really flying into the air and fighting, then that'd be a different story. But I was surprised that this movie was as new as it was because I thought it had come out before that. I don't know why. I guess I thought it was years before Captain America.
It's no, it too man, it's really that long
Yeah,
ago.
that surprised me when I saw 2010.
It's rough that when you say 20, but again, man, 2010 was like last year. What are you guys talking about?
Absolutely. I'm
Well,
still 24 years old
That's
and
what I'm
going out to
saying. Like,
local
what are you
shows every
guys
weekend.
talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah.
well, when I was doing, because I just one of the comics I reviewed this week was Guardians of the Galaxy, and I was like, oh, how long ago did the first movie come out? I'm like, 10 years ago. What?
Yeah.
It really was. And so this brings me to my next question is I want to hear from you guys. Which Evil X was your favorite?
Oh. In the movie or the books or both in
Either
general?
one. One from each since you finished both of them. Which one?
Um, in the books, it's probably Todd Ingram,
Ooh,
the vegan, the X number three. In the, I mean, again, like bass player, like he's just this huge douchebag. He's like the anti Scott Pilgrim, like
yes.
literally, like figuratively and metaphorically, and also just straight up. Because Envy Adams, who was Scott's ex-girlfriend, who broke his heart and ruined his life, and so forth, went from Scott Pilgrim to Todd Ingram, who is, like I said, the anti-Scott Pilgrim. He's this big, gigantic, buff, crazy superhero guy who also plays bass guitar, but also plays bass guitar really well, whereas Scott does not, and just the polar opposite. So I love that dynamic in the graphic novels. So it's for me, it's Todd. In the movie, um, I really love Mae Whitman as Roxy
Oh,
Richter. She's so
yes.
much fun in that movie. Like she's just having a blast, and it's the fight scene between her and Michael Cera and Elizabeth Winstead or Mary Elizabeth Winstead is just, I think, one of the best fights in a movie. It's really cool.
I loved how they did her too. It's one of those like over the top, but like understands what she's doing.
She knew
And
the assignment. Yeah,
yes, I think that's what really works about this movie is everybody who's in this movie understood like Matthew Patel. Dude knew exactly what he was doing. Chris Evans even knew like and I think if I'm not mistaken, Chris Evans said this was probably his favorite character that he played. At some point he said that. I want
Because
to
he
say
doesn't
it's
play many
recently.
douches.
No, because that's exactly
Well,
why
in one of the recent movies he did.
he
Mm.
got
But
to
yeah,
play that different character
yeah,
than
that's
what
probably a
he's
lot of
kind of used
fun.
to. And for me, man, I did love Matthew Patel. He was my favorite just because right off the bat. And I like the song rendition that they kind of do and how everything kind of breaks. And
Turns into like a Bollywood movie out of
yeah,
nowhere.
exactly. It turns into
Great.
Yeah.
like this off the wall because again, I didn't read the comics at the time. So when this kind of took a turn for me, it was one of those like, oh shit, this is dope. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. And so that's kind of my first rendition into it all. And this kind of stuck with me. So Lauren, I'm interested to see who was your favorite ex?
So I do want to say I did enjoy, I don't remember her name, the girl one. And I felt like she was one of the only ones that was allowed to be angry. It seemed like everybody else was kind of a dick. Whereas Ramona was like, oh, it was a phase. I was, just testing the waters.
Yeah.
And she was like, what the hell? It wasn't a phase for me. And I will say I didn't finish the show. But I did like how they handled that storyline. I don't like anime. I know we'll get into that, and you guys can yell at me when we get to that point. Um,
Ah,
but my favorite was actually Todd. And I think part of it was the casting because I only know him as Superman and as Adam from, Legends of Tomorrow.
yeah.
And he's such a nice guy and he's so sweet and he does nothing wrong and he just cares about everybody. And then to see him as this, arrogant douche who is vegan. And I love that too, that they're just like railing. I mean, there are nice vegans out there too. Don't get me wrong, but it's a lot of vegans
Sean's
are
a
a little
nice
bit
vegan.
pretentious. Well, my dad had a heart issue a couple years ago and went vegan, but not 100%. And when I told somebody, because we were having Thanksgiving and, somebody was like, oh, well, will
Dorothy
your dad eat
Mantooth is a
this?
saint.
And I'm like, well, yeah, if there's an event or something, and they're like, oh, so he's not a douche about it. And I'm like, no, he's not a douche about it. He's doing
Oh
it for
man.
legitimate health reasons. Look at Kevin
Yeah.
Smith.
Like
He's a
Kevin Smith,
vegan.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And I'm all, for the plant-based diet. That's awesome. It's also better for the environment. But some people are high on their horses. And when the vegan police came in, and what was it that he didn't know
I
had
can't remember. Like, it's not
It was
vegan.
gelato and then
Yes.
chicken parmesan.
chicken parmesan?
Chicken isn't vegan?
Vegan police.
That was hilarious. And I
Yeah.
really he did an amazing job. And I loved seeing him as a not sweet guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
I
my favorite ex.
definitely agree. So with that said, Lauren, before we kind of rank this and go further, why don't you give us the fun facts about the movie?
The movie.
It's our
So
fun
the fun
facts
fact,
expert, Lauren, everybody.
the actors in the band Sex Bomb spent weeks learning how to play together as a band. Mark Webber, Allison Phil, and Johnny Simmons all had to learn their instruments from scratch, but Michael Cera actually had to dumb down his bass playing skills in order to not outshine his bandmates.
I love
He's actually
everything.
a really good guitar player. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's
Yeah,
funny
that's
because it's
funny.
Michael Cera. He's stupid. He's like, he's not stupid, but he's really, really awkward,
Just
right?
tell us how you
And,
really feel.
well, he's just like that awkward. He kind of almost plays himself, but I think the closest he got was "This Is the End." If you guys ever saw that, where he played like
Oh
the
yeah.
asshole at the party. But it's Michael. I don't know why. I always love Michael
What's his
Cera for
name
that
in
reason.
Barbie movie? I can't even remember the name.
Alan.
Alan.
Yeah.
He's just
Yeah.
Ken's friend. That was like that
Hey,
was
Alan.
almost better casting than Margot Robbie. That's how good that was.
But it is fun, and so like the fact that he actually had to dumb it down, I'm like, that makes sense because you could see him as that awkward bass guitar player almost to a T. And so when I learned that, I was like, yeah, no, that part of the everything tracks.
Yeah.
So Edgar Wright had stated that the movie was done in a style of a musical, but instead of the characters breaking into song and dance, they would break into fight. The battle between Scott Pilgrim and Matthew Patel is done in the style of, like you had mentioned before, a Bollywood fight.
Bollywood, man.
At the first battle of the bands, when fighting the first evil X, Scott is seen wearing a Plum Tree t-shirt. Plum Tree is an all-girl indie band that released the song Scott Pilgrim on their 1998 album. This kind of predicts the future as the song became the inspiration for Brian Lee O'Malley to create the graphic novel's main character. The stunt doubles for Lucas Lee are the actual stunt doubles for Chris Evans. I mean, that would seem stupid if they didn't do that. Knives is actually 3 years older than Michael Cera. I thought that was funny. My last fun fact is there are a few Smashing Pumpkins references. Matt, I don't know if you know that was a popular band in the 90s.
I know the Smashing Pumpkins. They're on tour with Green Day this summer, dude.
Yeah.
And Green Day's doing their entire Dookie and American Idiot. Just throwing it out there. I'm trying to get to that concert. Green
That
Day
sounds amazing. I want to
Green
go
Day
to
puts
that.
on a hell of a show. If you've never seen them live,
I saw them for the first time live like a
Absolutely
year
insane.
ago. They were so good.
yeah.
And then
That's
some
gonna
little
be
kid
a-
came on stage and played guitar, and he let him keep his guitar.
Yeah, built.
So
That's
if you
just
want a
playing
Green
the
Day guitar,
subway in New
teach your
York.
kid to play Green Day and get him on stage.
Honestly,
Would you say
bro.
a subway in New York?
Yeah, they would just with Jimmy Fallon like 2 days ago playing in a subway in New York. Yeah,
Oh,
they
well,
were doing
that's
like
fun.
Basket Case and all that stuff. Yeah, Green Day was like the first. Green Day was my introduction into punk, and then came Blink, and then followed my entire emo phase that has just never phased out.
Oh, see, I got into Blink before Green Day.
No, it was
Yeah, I
Green
think I
Day.
did too. Well, Green Day started getting big when I was in like 6th grade. So it had to have been like 94, 95, maybe.
I think we're the
So,
same age, right?
yeah, I'm 40.
83? Yeah.
No, I'm not
Um,
83. I'm 40. Thank you. I'm not that old. Yeah, I was born in
You look
1983.
great for 83, man.
I
First
know,
of all,
yeah,
like, not
it's
a
all the
single
beer I
wrinkle.
drink. It's all the beer and cocaine and yeah.
the hell
all
of a
that
drug.
good stuff.
Well, I had the Insomniac on like cassette tape, but I remember hearing "Damn It" for the first time on like MTV and falling in love with Blink, and I think then getting into Green Day. Okay, so my last fun fact is about Smashing Pumpkins, which I had that double CD. And then my mom got really mad when she came into my room and it said something about God being empty and rat in a cage. So, like the graphic novel, Scott Pilgrim is seen wearing a t-shirt with the letters SP and a heart. Well, obviously it's Scott Pilgrim's initials. It is also the logo for Smashing Pumpkins, which was a big influence to the creator Brian Lee O'Malley. Scott's also seen wearing a Zero t-shirt, which is an iconic shirt often worn by Billy Corgan, who I didn't even watch this, but I need to go back and watch it. He was in the Christmas Day parade at Disney this
He
year.
was. Wow.
Uh,
Even I knew that. Wow. You were
You know, a lot of
you
people
were
were
gonna be
talking.
like, did you know the Smashing Pumpkins? Yes, I did.
Well, I was mocking you. I knew you knew the Smashing Pumpkins.
You sure about that?
I am sure about that because you know a lot of things I don't expect you to know. But Smashing Pumpkins, you should know, especially because they were also in the Guardians of the Galaxy special, which
They
makes
were.
sense then that they would be at the Disney thingy.
Hmm.
So, additionally, one of the film's acts is titled Infinite Sadness, which is a reference to the Smashing Pumpkins 1995 album, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness.
It's actually one of the chapters inside one of the, I think it's volume 3, is called Scott Pilgrim and the Infinite Sadness. It's right at the scene where
Yes.
Sex Bomb opens up for Envy's band, and they all break out into this massive fight afterwards. It's totally different from the movie, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, for
So,
anybody who wants to read the books, which I thought this was interesting, and obviously you can go into more detail on this in a bit, but volume one was called Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life.
mhm.
Then
Yeah.
two is Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Three is The Infinite Sadness. Four is Scott Pilgrim Gets It Together. Five is Scott Pilgrim versus the Universe. And then six, which Matt has not read, is Scott Pilgrim's Finest Hour.
Yeah.
Ah. We'll get there in a second. All right. This movie, though, for real, like there are so many quotable lines. One of my most favorite lines to quote, my wife and I say it all the time: "Bread makes you fat," because we'll be like, "Come on, man! Like, who doesn't love a good breadstick or like just like bread in general? You're sitting there eating it."
Bread's like beer, it doesn't have calories.
Exactly. And you're sitting there, it's like bread makes you fat. And did you get a haircut? Why is it stupid? He has the hat on. Like there's so many
I
like
feel
your
like that
fake
when it
high
just
school
appears.
girlfriend. Yeah, like there's so many good moments in this movie, and I think that's why it works. And the
Like
cast
Kieran
just
Culkin. Like, how did you even call him or call her?
Yeah. I always do the ha ha ha. That's actually hilarious.
yes, yeah. See, like so many. I'll do it to my kids all the time. Like if my kids happen to say something funny, which is once in a very great while, I'll just sit there and be like, ha ha ha. That's actually hilarious. And they'll be like,
And then they say it
Dad.
17 more times.
Yeah. Or, and the fight sequences are amazing in this. They just, there's so many good varieties. It's a video game, Scott versus Nega Scott. And they like the whole Mortal Kombat callbacks that we get to it. So for me personally, I'll tell you right now, like this is my second favorite movie of all time.
Wow.
The
What's your
first
Okay.
is
first?
Dark Knight, man. The Dark
Oh,
Knight
Okay.
was the Dark Knight, I think, is my favorite. Number one, because it's Batman. Number two was like a religious experience for me. So
Yeah.
many people out there might not remember that once upon a time you had to go to the movie theater and you had to fight for your seats. Like this was a
mm-hmm.
thing, people. And so there I am, 2008. I loved Batman Begins in 2006 or 2005, whatever it was. And 2008 was a big, like, it was all of us were like, dude, The Dark Knight. We went hours early to the movie theater because that's what you had to do. It's
Hmm.
big and midnight releases. It was legit. There was no 2
Miss the
p.m.
camaraderie of
Thursday
that.
showing.
Yeah.
No, it was that shit is at midnight. And so like you're all hanging out, the movie theater's buzzing. People are absolutely just talking about what they expect from the movie. It's absolutely going wild. You finally get your seat. We're dead center because we got there so early. We're like first in line. You got everything. And just like from the get go, that whole entire shot sequence of Heath Ledger standing on the street corner. And that movie for me is like the number one theater experience I have ever had in my life. It has never even come close. So
Really? Not even
nothing,
Endgame or Spider-Man No Way Home?
nothing has come like obviously Endgame was a different experience. And like this is a culmination
Mm-hmm.
of all of these movies, right? No Way Home was good. I loved No Way Home. Carrie and I saw it and it was emotional, but nothing comes close to you're just so excited because you waited all day. We're 18 years old. We just graduated high school. Yes, yes. We just graduated high school at this point. And so it's like the summer after graduating high school, like everyone's about to go to college.
I was running a law firm
Me,
that
I wasn't
summer.
going anywhere because I was a fucking deadbeat. Uh, but like
Thank you
friends
for
were
your
going to
service.
college. I
Yeah.
like the everything's buzzing. It was just religious, man. Like
You're
that
not
was
a
my
deadbeat.
and so I was not then I was like I was going to a community college, blowing money,
You
and
were a kid going to community college. It's not a deadbeat.
but still, like it was a religious experience for me. And so it's for me personally, it's my second favorite movie of all time, just because like nothing beats out that experience. Because movies are experiences. So I
Mhm.
want to see like where do you guys rank? Like maybe it's not top five, maybe it's top 10. You have to put an exact pinpoint on it. But for you, where does this kind of fall as far as movies, whether it's experience or what have you?
I'm gonna leave this all to DT because I don't.
Cool.
No,
Thanks.
not to be mean though.
No, no, not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's. I just saw it, so I don't. Yeah, I don't deserve a response to this question, honestly.
It is a movie I revisit multiple times a year since it came out, and it's been what, 14 years since it came out. So
Look at the math.
I've
Yeah.
probably seen it 25, 30 times. I could probably quote it verbatim right alongside like Empire Strikes Back. I just remembered, I don't know if you can see it back in this corner. I actually have a Scott Pilgrim poster from the day I saw it in the theater. They were giving out 11 by 17 posters. So I've
Nice.
still got it and it's
Awesome.
framed. I mean, that's how much I love this movie. It's not top five. I mean, top five is sacred for me. That's like Empire Strikes Back, Seven Samurai, The Godfather, that type of stuff.
Mm.
It probably edges its way into the top 20. Like I said before, I've got some minor issues with it just because the graphic novels are so near and dear to my heart. But at the same time, it was such a loving, enthusiastic, and just carefully crafted movie that just wanted to do right by the source material that they themselves loved too. And the movie is, for the most part, just a blast. And it's just such a distillation, along with the graphic novels, of growing up in that era, playing video games, going to shows, trying to be a musician, trying to talk to girls, getting your heart broken, drinking and throwing up in the bathroom, and
See, how is
just
that not
doing all
top
this.
five for you? Like what? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. It's just, I mean, it's not, again, like I said, the third act has issues for me, and just in terms of an overall like film production, it doesn't quite culminate the way it should in the third act. It's not their fault because they didn't have enough material to build from. They did their best, and I think it's still a good ending, but it's just not quite there. But it's a movie that has more, I think, emotional resonance for me than actual like, wow, this is an incredibly well made movie, if that makes sense.
No, for sure.
I have
It's
a lot of
fun.
movies like that I just adore, even though I know there's a little bit something lacking there, but it's a blast. It's emotionally important for me, and yeah, I adore it. I think it's a shame it didn't do better, and it's a shame that like it just didn't become like the cult classic it needed to be at the time. I think it is now. I think a lot of people have discovered
Oh
it and
yeah.
really enjoy it and love it. Lauren included. Like you just watched it for the first time and you seem to have really enjoyed it. But
Mhm.
it only made like half of its budget back in theaters. But it's made a lot more money in terms of like merchandise sales and syndication and the licensing showing up on streaming services all the time. So it's not a failure by any stretch. It just didn't find its audience at the time for some reason, and it's unfortunate.
It's
But
interesting how movies
Yeah.
do that. You know,
yeah,
some movies find you right away. Some movies it takes 10 years. And I think also what makes this movie special is the cast have all gone on to do like Brie Larson's Captain
They've all gone
Marvel.
on to do comic books
yeah.
movies.
Yeah, they've all gone like Chris Evans is Captain America, but we'll segue into the Netflix series, which I know this is about to be controversial because I loved it. I know that's not the shared feeling, but something special about Scott Pilgrim is everybody came back to do their voice, and everybody also came back because very rarely do you get a cast of this magnitude that will come back 10 years down the road to do like it's a 10-year anniversary. We're going to do during COVID is when they all got together and did like a rehashing of the script and stuff. And so going into the Netflix series, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, it's on Netflix, came out until fall of 2023.
I will say the
And
movie is on Netflix now, but it's going to be leaving soon. So if you do want to watch
Uh,
the
stupid.
movie on Netflix, go watch it soon.
January 31st is when it's leaving.
Oh,
Yeah,
well, real
Nothing
sooner than
is
I thought.
The
yeah.
world isn't fair. But
It'll show up somewhere else though.
it
It'll
will. I
probably show up on
mean,
Hulu or something.
it's like
Yeah,
HBO, right? They're always pulling off like their Harry Potter and DC. It's like, what
I've
are you going to
noticed
do with this? Like,
HBO and Netflix are going back and forth a lot, but
they do.
yeah.
yeah.
Movie rights are weird. But
Warner Brothers and HBO is doing a weird thing now where they're licensing out their properties out to other streaming services.
that's
So
right.
HBO doesn't really have it together, and they haven't for a long time. I'm surprised their investors and their board haven't started freaking out.
That's the one I don't subscribe to, honestly, because there's no,
And I can't give it to you because I'm on somebody else's.
well, it's like there's no, I have Disney. I have the Hulu Disney bundle, of course. I have Paramount Plus, which Paramount Plus has some good stuff on there. I have Peacock mainly for football,
Hmm.
which is funny because this weekend everybody was like, "What do you mean I got to get Peacock?" And it's like Peacock actually has some decent stuff. Hallmark, for example, you know
No,
me,
jeez.
I love my Hallmarks. So Peacock has Hallmark, man. So I'm about it. But yeah, I don't have HBO, uh, just for that reason. But streaming services lose a lot of money. So it's no
Yeah.
surprise that they have to dish out because that's how they make their money back. But yeah, anyways,
Before we head to the show, the last thing I just want to say one quick thing about the movie, like you guys saying, I'm surprised more people didn't get into it. I feel like it was a little bit ahead of its time because it came out at the same time that a lot of comic book movies came out, but the comic book movies that were doing well then were very grounded. So it's
yeah,
only just now that we're starting to get
doesn't make
actual
more
comic
grounded than a
adaptations
billionaire
like,
in an Iron Man suit.
but
Yeah.
it was as grounded as it could possibly
I
be.
know,
It
I'm just
wasn't
messing.
quantum mania.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would do better today, maybe. I'm just pulling
I
shit out of my ass. I don't
No,
know
I
for
think you're
sure.
absolutely right. I think a big issue, unfortunately, because I think he's hilarious and brilliant. There was a lot of Michael Cera backlash at the time too. He was kind of
Mhm.
overexposed. People were kind of getting sick of him.
That's
The
super
poster
bad
I've
fame.
got on my wall back here actually has his face obscured. And that was kind of a weird thing in a lot of the marketing where they kind of knew that he was kind of on the outs of his career at that point. Since then, he's done a bunch of indie movies, and everybody's like, wow, Michael Cera is actually like fucking awesome and hilarious. But at the time, like he had just done like year one with Jack Black, that caveman movie that bombed
Oh, it was so
terribly.
bad.
It was
Yeah.
not good. Um,
It wasn't the
Arrested Development at that
worst.
point was a distant memory. It had ended before the revival.
But
And he
there's
was
always money
just
in the banana chef.
always money in the banana stand. But yeah, it was an unfortunate factor in that as well, that it just didn't come out at the right time. And I think that's why it found its audience later, because like I said, people realized that Michael Cera is actually great. But
Hmm. Well,
yeah.
and everybody loved him as Alan.
Yeah, that too.
Yes. Well,
He
yeah.
seemed
I
out of place
mean,
in Arrested Development. Like he didn't seem like
yes
not
and
just.
no. Well, I think that a lot of the issue was in
We're gonna go down
Superbad,
a rabbit
right?
hole. Sorry.
Superbad jumps in, and you have Michael Cera. He plays that awkward teenage kid in
Hmm.
Superbad,
Mhm.
which is 2008, and then he just continuously plays that. It's a typecast almost, right? But
Yeah.
then I think like this is the end where he shows up and he's being an asshole. Is when people are like, "Oh, this is hilarious," blah blah blah, and then from that point on, he kind of disappeared and, like you said, did a bunch of indie movies. And recently, he's kind of made that resurgence. And yeah, I think people are finally appreciating because by all I don't know him, never met him, probably never will, but he's by all accounts a decent dude at the same time.
Seems
And
like it. Yeah.
yeah, and he showed up in like Barbie, where he was Alan. He was in Black Mirror, for example, and he's done a lot of like animated stuff, like Paws of Fury, which I saw in theaters, believe it or not, because I have kids.
Which Black Mirror
Um,
was he in? Why don't I remember him?
What is
he
Black
Positive
Mirror
Fury? I've never
he
is.
even
was.
heard of it.
It's Paws of
You've never
Fury,
heard of
like the
Black
Legend of
Mirror? Oh
Hank.
wait.
Oh,
It's
I've heard
like
of Black
some.
Mirror. I've never heard of Positive
Oh.
Fury. Yeah.
He was.
Oh, I haven't either.
It doesn't say which episode when I was looking up. It was season 6, episode 1. Joan is awful. He plays Beppy, and
Oh,
in that,
that's right. Okay, that's the new season.
yeah,
Okay, I
and so
forgot.
like he's slowly made a resurgence, and I would like to see more of him because I do think he got an unfair because it is interesting, right? Because him and Aubrey Plaza, they are kind of the same. They're that awkward.
They dated for a
She's
while.
not
They
awkward.
did.
They dated?
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's pictures of them dating, like people were like flocking them. They're at
Wow.
like a Denny's or something, but they're like that. They both were that awkward. She's gone
But I
on
don't
to
think
do
she's awkward because she's confident.
right, but Michael
She may
Cera's kind
make
of the
you
same in
feel
a different
awkward,
way, but
Right. Yeah.
but
it is
Michael
interesting how they
Cera
play the
is the
past
one
one.
feeling awkward.
It is, yeah. It's just interesting, like how that all goes. But he is a great actor. I think he plays it really well. And
That's so
in
funny they dated.
Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, the plot of this is in a magically realistic version of Toronto, a young man must defeat his new girlfriend's seven evil exes one by one in order to win her heart. Now, Lauren, hit us with the fun facts real quick before I give. This is spoilers if you haven't watched it. Just know that I thought it was going to be a rehash of the movie, and it was not that.
So I don't have too many fun facts. The main one is Edgar Wright revealed that since 2010, there has actually been an email group that the entire cast and crew of the film version has been part of. The making of the film was considered such a great experience for everyone involved that the email group never ceased to exist. And it was a way for everybody to keep in touch. So when it was time to cast for the series, rather than actually contacting everybody's agents and doing the Hollywood thing, Edgar Wright went on to the same email group and asked everyone if they would like to reprise their roles.
Imagine
Every
getting like an
single
alert
cast
to your
member.
dead AOL account and being like, "Hey guys, you want to come back for Scott Pilgrim?" And you're like, "What the fuck is this? Is this spam?" And then being like, "Oh shit, No,
It's
I just
Edgar.
it's Edgar, my man. And
It's like
then
so and
boom.
so 69 at Hotmail.
It's like your
Yeah,
10-year high school reunion.
But every single one of them immediately were like, "Yep," and all of them replied within 3 hours. The only
that's
people
awesome.
who didn't, that is really cool. The only people who didn't were the twins. However, this is probably due to the fact that the two guys that played the twins in the movie, they were Evil X's 5 and 6. They spoke very little to no English, and Edgar Wright said directing them during the fight scene was a big challenge, involving hand gestures and other means of communication. It also meant axing their talking subplot from the books where they hold Kim Pine as a hostage.
Look,
So
Yeah.
they obviously got other people to. I don't know
Google
why they would have
Translate,
cast them to begin
guys.
with, honestly.
Google Translate.
Did that exist in 2010 or 2009 when
It
they probably
exists
made it?
now when they were getting the gang back together.
Well, if these guys weren't even part of like, yeah, okay.
I don't know.
So
I'm
the
just talking.
director of the
I
movie
mean,
within this series is called Edgar Wrong, a play on
Yeah.
Edgar Wright. In the movie, Ramona delivers packages for Amazon. I did love this twist that she's now delivering Netflix DVDs. As somebody who's been a Netflix
I remember
subscribee
those
for
days.
so long, I remember
miss
looking
those
forward to
days.
checking the mail.
Yeah. You could you had to wait.
Dexter
You had to
season 2's here.
like you had to send a movie back or whatever it was. Yeah, like those days are primitive. People don't
So
realize.
we had the Blockbuster one for a little bit where you could get the movies delivered to you and then you could drop them off at Blockbuster and pick up
Oh.
movies. And we're like, this is amazing. And 6 months later, Blockbuster's dead.
Rest in
all right.
peace.
I really enjoyed this show. I know we're gonna get to your guys'
So
thoughts.
you're the one guy.
It's me. I really did because I thought it was a rehash, and so then it wasn't. And it was more Ramona focused. Like Scott gets kind of dead by Matthew Patel, and he's kind of fridged for a couple episodes, and this is really focused on Ramona. What I liked about it was the fact that they kind of focus on her emotions, which in the movie, if I had a complaint about the movie, it was she didn't really have emotions so much. She didn't show them. Whereas in this, she kind of was forced to show her emotions. She ends up realizing that she needs Scott, loves Scott, and it was more about her struggles with getting her exes together. And there's some comedy, like obviously the ultimate evil ex, right? He gets the boot from his own company, and Matthew Patel takes over, and there's some really good stuff in that. So I personally, I liked it. I thought it was fun. I wanted more. As of now, there is no plans for anything else. This was it. Uh, who knows if that could change? But I'm interested. So I know Lauren, her list is short. Why she hated it? She doesn't like anime.
No, but
Lauren doesn't
but
like fun, so we know that this wasn't for her.
Lauren was one of the cool kids in high school.
Lauren said, "Ew, anime, a bunch of weebs," and just moved on.
More like Anna, no way.
oh man. So
Anna,
I
not for
actually did
me.
I did watch more, I watched the first two episodes, and then I had the other ones on while I was doing stuff, and I got to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. I liked the story. I liked that the exes were redeeming themselves.
Yes.
And she was helping them through that. I actually really did enjoy that. I don't know why, and I know a lot of people disagree. I have this
Why
sounds
do
like
they
I'm
have no
like
wrists or
racist.
ankles?
Some of my closest friends are anime friends or anime fans. Okay, guys.
Guy,
I just
this is very
don't-
much like I have an anime friend. My best friend's an anime
I
fan.
sound terrible. I've never liked the art. When I was little, like one of my best friends got into Sailor Moon and I supported her habit. I went to Hot Topic, which I called the scary store in high school, and I found the Sailor Moon stuff and I bought it.
Everybody
not
looks like
scary.
they wanna hurt me.
Scary, yeah.
It's not scary anymore, but at the time it was all scary up front. And then
Those terrifying My Chemical Romance fans.
All those kids with the eyeliner and don't
Whatever,
know
that's
where
what
their
we called
parents
it.
are.
That's what my friends and I called Hot Topic in high school. Now it's my favorite store. I already got a super cute Ahsoka dress there for Mosh Isley.
Nice.
But I don't enjoy the art. They don't have wrists. They don't have ankles. Knives didn't have eyes. I don't understand why she didn't have
Nobody
eyes.
has noses. Yeah.
And then the snot bubbles. So I text Matt. I go, why do they have snot? Because I've seen that in other anime. And he's like, I don't know. I got no answer. So I
don't
Googled
have
it,
an answer for you. I still don't.
and it basically said it's their equivalent of the Z's. And in Western culture, that's considered gross. And in the Eastern culture, it's considered cute. is
Yeah,
what
it's
I
weird.
read.
Ew.
I
Yeah.
I did appreciate the no fear shirts. I thought that was fantastic. Because when I was in middle school, everybody wore no fear shirts.
Yeah.
I like the story. I didn't like the art, and I also didn't like they don't talk properly. Their lines don't match up with their mouth.
It's anime style. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
animated to be in the same style of Japanese animation. So the missing sync between the voices and the mouths is deliberate for that style.
Right.
The
And I
graphic
just it's
novels are
just
very
not
much in
for
the style of
me.
manga too. They're black and
They
white
are, yeah.
originally. They're very, they get the anime action lines and all kinds of weird, not quite as tropey as anime. It doesn't have like the big eyes and like the snot bubbles and all that type of stuff. But it's very much like I wouldn't say Americanized because Brian Lee O'Malley's Canadian, but it's very much a Western take on the style of manga graphic novels,
Right.
but without all the like, zany, over the top, like tropey Japanese stuff you normally see in manga. So
And that's probably why I didn't realize till I started watching it. Because there are some
yeah.
things like there was a Star Wars show that was a little bit anime, and somebody's like, "Oh, did you watch that?" And I'm like, "No." Was it Visions?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah, well, Visions was
so
like an
was
anthology, so
Visions.
there was a bunch of different anime studios. Vision season one is phenomenal. I highly recommend it. And it's not anime tropey at all. Just
Okay.
happens to be done by really prolific Japanese animation studios, but it's very, very approachable. It's not alienating or weird or awkward or zany,
Right.
crazy anime stuff. It's really good.
I would say like my oldest is like, she's like, I know you hate anime, but you should try to watch this. And like part of me is like, I don't even I want to. I have too many hobbies. I just I can't.
It
So it's
goes
probably
quick.
best, yeah,
You
if
can
I
watch it in like an hour and a half tops, but there's one episode of Star Wars Visions that I wish we would get like a full season or like just a full series of. And it was an episode. I think it was the last episode of season one, the Ninth Jedi,
Yeah.
and it was like a
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
throwback to the style of like classic Voltron or like Robotech and whatnot. And I immediately fell in love with it. And it's one of the best Star Wars stories we've ever gotten, and it's only like 5 minutes long. It's incredible.
all right, I will give it a try. But like I
Yeah.
think she was recommending Avatar the last air. I'm probably butchering that.
Avatar
She'd
last
probably be like, that's not what I was recommending.
I mean, probably was. Netflix has a live action Avatar
She's
last
into a
year,
couple
which
different anime things.
Mhm.
Kaylee is, but yeah,
anyways,
okay.
DT, I gotta know because I know I'm alone in this. What were your thoughts on the TV show?
I was super, super excited for it. The trailer I thought was phenomenal. I think the music in the show is excellent, especially that the title track was great. I was also expecting just sort of a retread of the graphic novels, but like more elongated version because the movie was so abridged in such a like a short form way of telling the story of the graphic novels. I was delightfully surprised when it wasn't that, and it was like a total like almost like an Elseworlds take, like a totally off the rails
That's a good way
like
to put it. Yeah.
alternate way of telling the story. And I really, really dug, and I thought it was brilliant, the angle of having Ramona be the hero this time, because the graphic novels are very much being like an insecure male in your 20s and dealing with like retroactive jealousy and dealing with your girlfriend's baggage and like coming into your own, figuring out who you are. And Scott Pilgrim does it. It's such like a blunt object way of like just murdering people basically to like sort his problems out. And I love the angle of the TV show of it being Ramona, who's actually the one who brings all the emotional baggage into the story, and her not dealing with her exes properly being the impetus, like the catalyst for the whole story kicking off. But then the show stops going in any sort of direction and just meanders, and it tries way too hard, and there's so much filler. Everything to do with the movie and all like the meta jokes of the movie just didn't go anywhere. And I was like, okay, let's get back to the actual story here. Like this could have been like a 2 hour movie instead of like a what was it, like an 8 episode series or whatnot.
That's a good point.
And it grated on me, and I hated the way that like characters like Wallace Wells were treated. Where if you've read the graphic novels, Wallace Wells might be my favorite or overall character in the graphic novels because he's zany and silly and goofy and sassy, but he also really loves Scott, and he takes care of him and he mentors him and he wants to do right by him and he wants to see Scott pick himself up by his bootstraps and succeed. And it kind of started with the movie where Wallace Wells becomes this sort of narcissist and like a selfish character and almost like an antagonist to Scott along with everybody else. And it's cranked up to 11 here. We're getting into spoilers with the show, right?
Absolutely. We're spoiling away. Yeah.
Okay, everybody thinks that Scott is dead and they have a funeral. And Wallace doesn't even care that his best friend that he's known since high school and is like literally fed and clothed and sheltered for most of their adult life up to that point just died. He just doesn't care. A lot of the show is largely tone deaf aside from the Ramona stuff, and it was really disappointing for me. It does pick back up in the last few episodes when everything kind of culminates and you figure out what's actually going on and where the story's actually going to go and where it leads Scott and Ramona to their conclusions. But there's that full third of the series that just did nothing for me and annoyed me so much that by the time we got to the third act and the climax of the series, I was already almost checked out. But the first two episodes, I was totally vibing on it. I was like, oh my God, this is great. The music's fantastic. The actors, because they were able to just goof off and like sound boosts and whatnot, they felt like, especially with Michael Cera, almost had more energy in the series than they did in the movies. Like I think Michael Cera's Scott Pilgrim in the movie is understated in a weird way, whereas Scott in the graphic novels is very here like hero of his own story, blunt object, dipshit, just charging through life head first without a care in the world. And Michael Cera, Scott Pilgrim, is very like downtrodden and
Yeah.
weighed down by the events of his life, which is almost antithetical to the comic version. That's one of the slight issues I actually have with the movie. But getting back to the TV show, the first third is really good. The last third is pretty good. And that middle third just bogs it all down and almost threatens to ruin the entire experience, sadly.
I
I
honestly,
feel like you just made me feel better about my judgment of it.
I could see it. I could very much see it because I will say that it kind of does spend a lot of probably too much time in the middle of the series because they had to drag it out
Yeah.
of Ramona just like there's a whole sequence where we spend with Scott fighting with himself, and it's future Scott deal in how him and Ramona get divorced at some point, and that part kind of is like, all right, that drug out a little bit. He's living with Wallace, who is married to very
Mobile, his boyfriend
yes.
from the comics. Yeah.
Yes. And so like I get that, and I also get like there's parts where it feels like Ramona's almost just wandering through a desert aimlessly for a little bit before it
Mhm.
picks back up. I can get that. I guess maybe I had the like nostalgia glasses on for this because I was willing to be like, all right, filler, there's always gonna be filler, whatever, put it aside. Let's get into the good stuff. But I now that talking about it, yeah, it doesn't detract to the fact that I like the show. But I do wish that they kind of I think it's one of those instances where they harm themselves going 8 episodes because they had to.
Yeah.
Which,
It
like, why do
felt
you need to
like,
do that
oh,
in
sorry.
streaming? Oh no, you're good.
Yeah. It felt to me like they were a little too pleased with themselves. Like the jokes felt very proud of themselves and they weren't very good jokes. And it kind of, the show felt like it was resting on its laurels, which is great in the first couple of episodes and the last couple of episodes, which were really cleverly written and actually had something to say. But again, aside from all the Ramona stuff and her going back and reconciling her past and actually going back and doing right by all of her exes, everything that's not Ramona in this show is just largely pointless. But you also can't have a Scott Pilgrim story without young Neil and, Stephen
Yeah.
Stills and Kim Pine. But when it's all about Ramona, who has only one connection to those characters, which is Scott, what do you do with those characters? And I don't think they really knew what to do with those characters. It feels like something that they got greenlit before they had a script, and they were like, "Oh shit, we got to write a script," and they hurried and they rushed through the script with a really good like thesis, a really good central idea, but rushed through the rest of it just to get it out there. And it feels like something that was like a first draft or a second draft, and it probably needed like 4 or 5 more drafts before it was something really solid and something that was worthy of being produced and put out there. But
Mhm.
If they had
it is
like
what it is.
6 more months, yeah, because I think one thing too to state that like there was something I really liked. It was the fact that Knives and Ramona end up working together to battle. I thought that was a clever twist. I liked that. But you are right. I will say at
That
the end
happened
of
in
the
the
day,
movie too,
Mhm.
yeah, it did.
which I very
And
much so enjoyed because I hate the trope of like I'm gonna beat your ass because you slept with my man. Like your man's here to blame. Y'all should team up.
you punched the
Yeah.
blue out of her hair.
that
But I,
was
I
funny.
do very much agree that if it had 6 months, it probably could have been perfect because, yeah, Scott's the catalyst, right? Scott is the driving force in Scott Pilgrim. His decisions hinges around him and his fake high school girlfriend, and then he manages to get himself in an entanglement with Ramona, if you will, and from there, so that it does kind of lose its way, and it feels like, well, Ramona, what's your problem? Because I feel like Ramona never really faced her issues in the TV show. It was more of like almost again, I love the show, and I'm not changing my mind. I still do, but I will say that it feels like Ramona probably never actually faced her issues. She just made excuses in the TV show.
I don't know about that. I feel like in the ending she fully did. Like she decided to choose herself over anybody else, which is something she never did. She bounced from relationship to relationship and she left this wake of destruction and broken hearts behind her. And as the mature future Ramona, she was like, yeah, no, I need to focus on myself and like figure out who I am and mature. That was one of the things I really liked about this series.
Good for
Um,
her. Maybe I should watch the
but
last episode.
yeah, I recommend
You
going back
should.
and watching it. But yeah, what you described, Matt, though, was another issue. Well, one of the issues I have with the graphic novels is the fact that, well, really more with the movie than the graphic novels, because the graphic novels give you a little bit more space to explore Ramona's relationships and whatnot, and she does get the chance to kind of reconcile situations, especially with Roxy Richter, the female ex. But in the movie, Ramona's got nothing to do with reconciling her issues or her past,
She
and
just sits to the side.
even when she's confronted with it, she just kind of takes the Scott Pilgrim approach and just gets into a fight and fights them. Like she, and then she tries to run away at the end. Like she doesn't really learn anything. That's an issue with
Mhm.
the movie is nobody learns anything at the end of the movie. At the end of the graphic novels, everybody's like a fully formed person at that point. Like they've gone through trials and they've spent a bunch of time apart because everybody just kind of ends up going their separate ways for a long time before they reconvene. So they're a little bit older, a little bit wiser, and
Yeah,
you
I would say.
understand why. Hmm?
I would say though, to your point, that I feel like Scott learned something in the movies. I feel like Scott had to reconcile with himself the same way Ramona did in the TV show.
Well, Scott owns up to his mistake of cheating on both of them, but that's pretty much it. Like you don't see a huge amount of adult growth. Like in the comics, like he gets a job and he gets his own apartment and he starts actually figuring it out and piecing it back together.
That's fair because I haven't finished
And
the sixth movie,
yeah,
so that's fair.
but well, without going into any more like detail, like you understand by the end of the graphic novels why Scott and Ramona would decide to stay together and make another go of it. In the movie, it just feels very sort of slapdash because when they filmed the movie, they actually did two different versions where Scott leaves with Ramona, but he also leaves with Knives. And they couldn't decide until they were editing which one actually rang more true. Until Brian Lee O'Malley was like, it's got to be Ramona. Like, that's the whole
He
point.
never liked knives. He liked the idea of
Yeah,
knives.
he got the
Exactly.
attention from
Yeah.
Knives. Yeah, that's what it was. Like she showed him
Yeah.
attention.
I mean, she was cute and fun, but like he wasn't into her.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
that's the
that
fault
was
of the movie, and it's the fault of not having enough source material to go off of, where they didn't know how to end it. So they just kind of shot it and they just kind of threw it out there and it kind of sort of works, but it doesn't really. But the movie's so damn good up to that point that you can forgive
hmm
it. But
right.
yeah.
For a second, I was like, is he really going to end up with knives? This feels very weird.
Well, like I said, they shot an ending where he does end up with knives and they just decided it just didn't feel right because Brian Lee O'Malley was like,
Because it's not right.
no,
Yeah,
no.
no, that's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And I get the criticisms of the show. I do. I again rose tinted glasses. This is one of my things. Like Lauren tends to be that way with Marvel stuff. Like that's just how it is. And for this, Scott Pilgrim's my version of that. And I did love it, regardless of what happened. I do like some of the changes they made. I think that's what really got me in the TV show was the fact that it was so different from what I had read to this point, what the
Mhm.
movie was. And I think that's probably why I was like, oh wow, this is a fresh new story. I love this. And I was willing to put things aside, and I'm going to continuously put things aside and love that. But I hear and I recognize, and I'm gonna definitely finish the books because I have 1 through 5. And for some reason I never got to 6. I don't know
How do
what
you
I'm
do that? You're so close.
I
I guess
don't
the
know,
last
Yeah.
mile
man.
of a marathon
And
is the
I
I
like I
don't
hardest.
said,
I've
know.
never run a
I
marathon.
literally
Volume
don't know what
6 is
happens.
so good, dude. Like, so what's
No
awesome
idea.
is like the end of the movie with like Gideon's microchip in the back of Ramona's neck. None of that happens in the comics. It was such a weird thing they
That
threw in
was
there.
very odd.
Yeah,
But I
you're gonna
mean,
love
yeah.
Volume 6. Like it ties everything together. I would go back and read 1 through 5 first, so you're kind of caught up and fresh for 6, and then read through 6, and you'll adore it. You being as big a Scott Pilgrim fan as you are, I think it'll put you like over the moon once you finish the graphic novels. I think you'll be like a super fan at that point because
Son of a bitch,
they're
I'm in.
so good. Yeah.
Yeah, the microchip is like X-Men 3 when they're like,
It was such a weird thing. Like
Yeah.
it
yeah.
had no place in the movie. Like it got to the point, like I said, where towards the end of the movie, they were just like kind of throwing stuff at the wall to see what stuck because they didn't really know what to do with it at that
hmm
point. and they
They
just
still
had
did
to
it
end
better
it.
than George R. R.
Just like,
Martin and
Oh
the
God,
Duffer,
yeah,
those other two D&D from Game of Thrones. I'll
yeah,
say
I
that
was
that.
like,
was
D&D.
yeah. Season 7 and 8 were bad.
He's like, I
It was
can't help, or
tough.
she kept saying,
Yeah,
I can't help myself around him. I'm like, well, this is fucking weird.
No,
yeah.
but overall, I think we general consensus here is we love Scott Pilgrim. It's been nice
Yeah,
getting
I
to
don't
like
understand. Well, I don't understand what she saw in him. I loved the movie.
Well, she saw in him what Scott saw in Knives, something simple and pleasant and probably disposable, and they
safe.
just
Like he
got in
didn't,
too
yeah, he
deep.
didn't like knives.
I feel like
Yeah,
she found him a safe option too, right?
I
Like
yeah,
think
of course.
Wallace was the only person in that movie that wasn't toxic.
Wallace was
Yeah,
just doing his thing. Yeah, he was,
uh,
just hitting up Tinder dates and doing his thing. And but at the same time, he was giving Scott really good advice. He was like, Scott, you're being an idiot. Like
yeah,
Yes.
everybody in their life
He's
needs that
like, you have to break
Wallace.
up with knives. Like
Yeah,
he was the only one that was very matter of fact, like, this is not okay.
like bro,
yeah.
this isn't cool. Like you need to tell her.
I mean, even though was it with Anna Kendrick again?
God, this
That
is where my Anna Kendrick love first
was
started. Just so we're
amazing.
clear, like she's still my number one, and this
That's
is where
that's
it
where Edgar
started.
Wright's love for her came into. They dated for a long time after that movie. They met on that set of that movie, dated for a long time.
She
So
doesn't do
Lucky,
anything for me.
lucky. Yeah,
yeah, me
well,
neither, honestly. I think she's very cute and very talented, but
Yeah, that's about
doesn't
it.
doesn't light a fire under me. I don't know.
well, good. You know what? There's two less
It's
people on
all
this earth I got to
yours.
battle. So two less evil exes I got to fight.
Okay, I do want to say one thing about the movie. I'm like, wow, they are taking murder very lightly in this movie. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
like you just straight up, and even
casual.
like with Brie Larson, she's like, "Well, you just murdered my boyfriend or whatever," and I'm like, "Yeah, you just murdered her boyfriend. Like, we're just murder's just
Punch the
okay.
blue
Here's
out of
some
her hair.
money."
No, but seriously though, to kind of wrap it up, I mean, we all are fans. I'm gonna go back revisit
And
DT
finish
as
the comics.
I will, yeah. As we do wrap up though, man, let everybody know where it is, and congrats too, because this man passed over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's a big deal. Like you guys might not think it's a big deal, but anytime you hit a milestone, we got to celebrate the homies. That's my big thing, is celebrate the good stuff. So congrats to you on passing that, and
Thanks,
let
man.
everybody know where they can find the good stuff coming from you guys.
Yeah. First of all, what's really weird and messed up is it's almost 2000 now.
Holy
It
shit!
it just caught on. Like, yeah.
Oh my god, that's
It was 1,000
awesome.
like
Yeah.
2 days ago.
It's
Holy
like
crap.
1900 right now. I know it's nuts. Um, Diversify your promotion. Like if you're a podcast or a YouTuber, try as many different avenues of promotion as you can. Don't stick to one thing like Twitter or Facebook.
All right,
That's what I
OnlyFans
did.
it
I started
is.
doing all kinds of different things and it just started landing on the algorithms. So that's really cool. Spacecastle.net. You can find links to the YouTube, which is where all the stuff I'm doing is happening. You get links to merch and all that type of stuff too. It's kind of a bare bones like placeholder website right now, but eventually I want to do like a blog and be a little bit more proactive and whatnot. But for right now, spacecastle.net is the hub to chase down all the stuff I'm working on right now.
And you guys do like the real drunk, which is always a really fun thing that you
Yes.
guys do. I that's probably my favorite thing that you guys do, like the real drunk. You guys just like get drunk, talk about movies, man. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's coming back. So yeah, Real Drunk. We write drinking games for classic movies. We play those drinking games
Mm.
on camera, and then after we've been drinking for like 90 minutes, we try and review the movie after the fact. Um, there's been some zany happenings on that series. I'll say that the Power Rangers episode we did a while back was especially wild. That's coming back, by the way. It's going to be a quarterly thing, just because it's so time consuming to do. Because I essentially have to
Because you're
watch a
hungover
movie
the
like
next day.
3 times over the course of making an episode. But it takes a long time to like edit like 2 hours worth of commentary and jokes and
Yeah.
near
And that
vomiting and stuff. But
is that
um,
sponsored by Pedialyte?
we should be, or at
Happy
least
hour
Gatorade or
vitamins.
somebody. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be quarterly. So we just actually filmed the next episode after a long hiatus just a week ago. So it's in the editing booth, so to speak, right now. So really excited about it.
It's on the cutting room floor, baby. That's showbiz, baby.
Next to the puke.
It
Next to the
is.
puke and the empty beer bottles and the half empty broken whiskey bottle
I
and
thought
my
you were saying
dignity.
broken dreams.
That too, yeah.
For real though, man, I can't thank you enough. We're gonna get you back on for
Oh,
first and
have me
foremost.
every time, every week if you want. I don't care. Yeah,
Look, we got an
you guys are
unofficial
great.
third
Just
man's
consented.
on this. You heard it here. He said, "Have me have any time." So you know, consent first. But for real, guys, everybody, make sure you check it out. Push them over the 2,000 mark, get and beyond. First of all, and then of course, I gotta hit it one more time, man. MegaCon is next week. Find us. Lauren and I will be there. I land at Thursday
Say
at like
find us. You know how many
3
people
o'clock.
I never see there that I know are always there?
I'm literally like the tallest person in every crowd I'm ever in. So if you can't find me, we have some problems.
And I'll
Just
be
throwing
next
that
to
out
him
there.
with all the
Look for
people.
the freakishly tall dude with a Roosevelt shirt, and that's gonna be me. We're gonna be
You
at
love
Mosh
your
Isley.
Roosevelt shirts, man.
Dude, something
Yeah,
about like the nerdiness and like it's like a
yeah.
confident thing, right? You feel confident in them. It's like
They're
flashy.
super
I have a
cute,
very
but like
flashy personality.
I
Mhm.
can't buy a $70 shirt without being able to try it on.
Military discount, baby. The government does me one good thing, and besides giving me
And at
depression,
MegaCon,
it's giving me discounts.
but MegaCon last year they had no girl shirts. Why do you have
Why is there
balloons? What
balloons?
is going on? That happened another time too. You just randomly
I
had
said something
balloons.
like really.
Anybody who's not on the YouTube, balloons just showed up on Matt's
I said I got
page.
depression,
Random's
and the
picture.
balloons went wild on Zoom.
I hope that shows up on the YouTube. That'll be brilliant. That's
Oh
amazing.
man, I can't wait to
I
edit
think
this
it
back.
will. Isn't it just a screen record?
That's crazy. And yeah, so but I do love the Roosevelts, and we're gonna be at Masha Isley, sponsored by Roosevelts, and our friend
I
Nick
will be wearing Her
Gandarian.
Universe by Ashley Eckstein.
Look at us. Look. What are you wearing to tonight's event? Her universe.
Well, you guys got to make sure you
And
don't wear the same thing. That'd be
that's
embarrassing.
very true. It'd be very awkward. But yeah, man, follow our YouTube, follow our social media, Hopsgeek News. We're gonna be going live many times. We're gonna be
If we can.
panels.
The
We're going
service
to
is
be at
not
breweries.
great.
We're trying to set up like a bottle share, possibly Sunday of MegaCon, since as things wind
Nice.
down. I fly in Thursday and then I leave Monday. Shout out to my wife for even letting me do this. She's been very supportive of this. I'm just, without her, I don't get to go do this stuff. And so yeah, make sure you're following along with that. Lots of good things coming up. I can't thank everybody enough, especially our patrons as well as always. You guys, without you guys, we wouldn't be doing half the stuff that we do. Getting to go to Comic
Thank you,
Cons.
Mom.
Thanks, Lauren's mom, because my parents don't support me, but we've known
My
that from
dad's not a
birth.
patron on my stuff either. Like, what's the deal? Like,
My dad
Parents,
doesn't
what
listen
are we
to the geek
doing?
stuff. He's like, I support the beer stuff, but I'm just not into the other stuff. I'm like, I know, Dad, it's okay.
My mom doesn't even. My mom. So I'll probably cut all this out. But my mom was. They came to visit.
no, we're
They
not.
they came to visit in November, right? And
No, my aunt and my cousin
my
are
mom was
awesome supporters too.
boasting, absolutely boasting about, I watch his podcast. I know this. Well, first of all, she brought the wrong beer. My dad was gonna go pick up this beer that I really like. It's Gunner's Daughter. It's a peanut butter stout.
Mayflower.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
she picked up from Mass Landing, and so, but she picked up the wrong one. She was very boasting about how she knows me podcast. She picked the wrong beer, and then she's so adamant about knowing the podcast. I watch it. I watch it. We go to Three Notched Brewing where they have this big chalk wall, and she draws the hops news stuff on there. And I was like, you don't fucking know anything. But I couldn't tell her that like she doesn't know shit because it's like, oh, she tried. But at the
Yes,
same
like
time,
some of
it's
my
like
closest
you.
friends, like Lexi one day was like, I can't believe you read comic books. And she just starts laughing. And this is somebody that I am very close with and have been since I
Yeah,
was
well,
13.
can't believe you read comic books, but we just hung out with Jeff Johns, so really.
They don't know who that is. She doesn't
Okay,
watch the shows either.
that's
Her husband does.
see, her
Actually, shout
husband
out
would
to
know.
Gian who gave me this lovely Star Wars poster.
Nice. It's special edition, but that's okay.
But
I was like, "Ooh, I like your poster," and he's like, "Thanks. Do you want it?" And I was like, "What?"
I couldn't tell you half the people, like I feel like my work, a lot of people listen because they know I do this stuff, and that's why we're cutting all that out. But yeah, it's funny. Lauren's parents and friends, mine not so much, not supportive.
My friends are
Sons of
well,
bitches.
but you got to realize, like, part of the reason I started this podcast was because, like, the majority of my friends aren't into any of this at all.
Here we are 4 years deep. 4 years
So
strong, some
yeah,
might say. One of my favorite bands.
but again, I don't have none of my girlfriends read comics at all. The only like we had one guy friend in high school that read comics, and he didn't tell any of us until like the fucking Avengers movie came out and Thanos showed up at the end and he knew who Thanos was. And we're like, how do you know who Thanos is? And he's like, oh, I read
Crazy.
comics. We're like,
He
what?
like breaks down the whole biography of Thanos
Yeah,
and
right.
like
Yeah.
Just,
the whole
just
history of
crazy.
the Infinity Gems.
And none of us knew who he was. Yeah.
Fucking wild. But yeah, thank you everybody for hanging out with us on this extended edition, if you will, the Scott Pilgrim cut, if you will. We will see you guys next week. Honestly, I'm not sure what the next episode is because we might just do a bunch of live stuff from MegaCon. We might do a MegaCon pre-show. That's probably what's going to be, right? So stay tuned. Follow our socials. We'll see you next week. Cheers.